So now we're at day 2 of constructing with paper mache, and my current project looks like this. Unfortunately, I let it dry where my cat could get to it, and now there's teeth marks in it. Hopefully yours doesn't have teeth marks in it. Some of you may have built your first layer of paper mache directly on top of your styrofoam bowl, and some of you may have put a layer of plastic wrap in between the styrofoam bowl and your paper mache. If you put a layer of plastic wrap in between, you need to take your paper mache project off, pull out the plastic wrap, and set aside the plastic wrap, and then put your paper mache bowl directly on top of your styrofoam bowl so they are kind of together as one. And they should be very, very similarly sized. If your paper mache is kind of lumpy and bumpy today, don't worry about it because you only have one layer of paper mache on it at this point. We're gonna add a second and a third layer today so it makes it much stronger. Remember, we're starting with glue, a glue and water mix. And so you should have put a little bit of glue in a bowl with just a little bit of water. So the same part glue to same part water. So if you're using a tablespoon of this, you use a tablespoon of this. And then you mix them together with whatever you have to stir them up. If you have a popsicle stick, fantastic. I am working where all I have is my spoon. So I'm gonna use my spoon. I'll wash my spoon later, obviously. Okay, and so now I've got my bowl of glue and water mix. Now, also I like to work on a surface where it's easy to clean. If you're in an environment where you have the brown waxed paper, great. I am unfortunately not where I have that brown paper at my disposal today, so I'm working on just regular plain wax paper. So I've got these two mixtures, or got these two things, and then I've got my paper. Whatever paper I started with, I'm gonna continue with if I still have access to it. And if I don't, that's okay too. And I'm just going to continue the process. I'm dipping in and I'm covering up. Oh my gosh, I can hear my cat. So I'm gonna keep going all over, and I'm working very carefully to make sure that my paper mache is pressed down all the way because I want to have complete coverage over the entire thing. The edges, if they're all messy like this, it's not that big of a deal because we're going to do some trimming and kind of trim that up at the end. But you definitely want to make sure that all of your paper mache goes, extends past the edge of your styrofoam. So you should see no styrofoam by the end, but don't wrap your paper mache around to this side. So you don't want to do this kind of thing or you'll never get the styrofoam bowl out. Okay, so you want to make sure it's not wrapped. So I'm just gonna keep going. Oh no, I got a cat in the way. So we're gonna keep going to where you can get 2 or 3 layers. Probably, I'd say at least 3 layers. So you do not wanna have just 2 layers because it will not be strong enough. And again, use your fingers to really press it down. There should not be gigantic bumps or like mountains. Okay, it should be relatively flat and not lumpy. And since you're putting extra paper mache glue on here, you may find that you'll have some pieces that you don't need to put any additional glue or paper mache mixture on at all, that there's so much glue product on here that your paper mache will just stick on without putting more glue. Oh my gosh, my cat. And the cat is mad. I'm not paying attention to him. Okay, so you'll just keep going over and over and over, more and more and more. You want to have at least 2 additional coats on top of the first coat that you made on day 1. Okay. All right, so you see now that I'm nearing the end, my pieces are getting smaller and smaller. So when I have lumps on my existing surface, I use this small piece to cover up any little gaps or little mountains that were created if I used bigger pieces. Because if you use a bigger piece, it will wrinkle, and we don't want the wrinkles. All of the wrinkles should be gone and smoothed out or covered over before you set this aside for drying. So you should not see any gaps, no mountains, no big wrinkles. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. I'm gonna take my finger one last time and get off any extra glue mixture. This will speed up the drying process. We don't want to have pools or puddles of glue on the entire project, but with that extra glue I've picked up with my finger, I can use it and spread it around on top of my project, okay? And at this point, you may notice the moisture has soaked through and your project may want to come off of your styrofoam bowl. Do not take it off your styrofoam bowl. Leave it to dry on the styrofoam bowl. So don't mess with it. Just let it sit. Take all your supplies off your wax paper and just carry this entire thing to wherever your drying place is. In our class, it is very likely just going to be in your cubby, but double check with your teacher to make sure it is placed in the appropriate drying location. And then we'll take it out and look at it in or during the next class.